Hey heroes, welcome back. Sir Matt and Sir Ezra here, ready to talk about season 1 of the Wheel of Time series, and we're on episode 4. Now, Sir Matt, since we kind of pre-recorded episodes 1, 2, and 3 a while back, quite a ways back, actually. And we've learned a lot, right? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So our original kind of speculation was we were just trying to piece it together because, again, huge, enormous book series. There had been some talk, right, of this many episodes, this many seasons, stuff like that. Then there was that Jordan Con video in which showrunner Rafe Judkins said, it's probably gonna be eight episodes a season. We're probably looking at 8 seasons. So now we're starting to do some math, and there's been some episode titles released and things like that, and it's seeming more and more like it to me that we're probably going to be on a pace of about 4 episodes a book. Now, again, you're probably looking at taking, here's some stuff that happens here, and let's bring it down to here, and here's some stuff that we didn't cover, and you can put it over here just because of, casting and shooting and stuff like that. And, you can combine some stuff from this conversation and add it into this conversation later, and that's all fine. But probably in terms of plot, maybe a pace of about 4 episodes a book, which on one hand seems like, my God, they're gonna have to cut so much out, it's not gonna be that bad. But the more I think about it, I think, well, actually 4 episodes, roughly 50 minutes, I mean, you're at over the length of a movie. So if you just kind of go into it with this mindset of we're doing a movie, a book, then I think that's okay, right? I mean, then that's okay. You're basically just producing 2 movies a year.
Yeah. And I hear you 100%. I think that is probably when you go back and look, I don't know whether I think it was Nameless, another individual who's got a great YouTube channel you guys should check out, did sort of a breakdown, went and looked at point of view in Game of Thrones and made a comparison there. And I actually, the more I watched that and the more I thought about it, I think, yeah, maybe you could get this in 4 episodes. We originally thought 6, and you're going to trickle in some other stuff and maybe, but sure, I'm all for this. And so I guess with that in mind, looking back at our first 3 episodes, 1, 2, and 3, we're still pretty sure about episode 1 and leaving in the prologue and everything. Episode 2, Shadar Logoth and getting the dagger and figuring out what's going on with Shadows Waiting. And shout out, by the way, to Narg from the Daily Trolloc, and just in the recap. If you guys, I'll put a link to that in the description. There's a great resource that's been put together just with all this information about what's happening with the Wheel of Time TV series. It's fantastic. And I was telling Sir Matt, it's crazy what people do. Like, they're zooming in on scripts and looking at the titles of stuff and really trying to scrounge for every little detail that they can in this Wheel of Time. Whether it's a little teaser, it was like a table reading, I think. This I found hysterical. People were like looking at like how many people were sitting around the table and who was missing from the table, and maybe why were they missing? So,
right, exactly. And you think about all this stuff, but yeah, so really, as we really only have about one probably addendum kind of to our last video, because I think we were on a pace of thinking maybe they get through the first book in about 6 episodes again, and we were thinking more of on this mindset of, well, you can cut some stuff down later, you can add some stuff in here, combine some stuff. And so I didn't know that we weren't saying it would be like exactly 6 episodes a book, because some books are bigger than others.
right.
But now I think maybe this kind of 4 episodes a book might be the way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. So one of our adjustments was in the last, in episode 3, I think it's called I think the title for that is going to be like a place of safety. Is that what it is, Sir Matt? In one of the scripts, but and again, things that I don't really like to look up. I like to look up some leaks and some spoiler stuff, but I don't like to get too spoilerish. But there's definitely some stuff out there that indicates we may see Perrin and Egwene's arc in the Eye of the World and see where they kind of split off and where they go. And so, yeah, it's a place of safety.
So
it's a place of safety.
Episode 1 is leave taking, which I still think is fine. Episode 2, Shadows Waiting. I think we were pretty good there. A Place of Safety, and then episode 4 is called The Dragon Reborn. So yeah, so that's what we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, today. So I guess in adjustment to episode 3, which we talked about last week, instead of leaving Matt and Rand kind of in one of those villages on the way to Caemlyn, probably just accelerate that and they get to Caemlyn. And I wouldn't be surprised if it sort of ends with, episode 3 ends with introducing Loyal or something, right? And Rand's scared, thinking it's a Trolloc or something, and it's really, kind of leave us there for a second, and we get introduced.
That'd be great.
That'd be kind of cool, right?
yeah.
Like an introduction, and then people are searching, who is Loyal, what's going on. I think that would be pretty cool. And then after that, now that takes us into where we currently are, which is sort of episode 4. How do we, where we are, get to the end of the Eye of the World? How do we fit all this in?
Wow.
And I think it just has to go, fairly. Maybe you could do more in Caemlyn in episode 3 instead of just introducing Loyal. Maybe you go as far as having him drop into, see Queen Morgaze or whatever. Maybe they cut that out and they save it for later, though. That's actually another point. I think people have brought up the idea that you could, some of the storyline that we do see happen, you might just save it for later, and you might move it around a little bit. I don't know.
I think you could make the ways, you could do the ways a lot quicker, right? It's I know this thing, and maybe we don't get chased, or and so maybe it's just kind of, hey, here's this thing, and we just use it, and that is what it is. And so then later you can bring in, hey, getting chased by Mach and Shan and all this stuff. And so maybe it's, so that can save you some time there. Then man, from there to Eye of the World,
they might just go straight there. I mean, they might just
go straight there.
Like skip Fal Dara. They might actually take this. I know, you're talking about moving waygates around a little bit, but there are, spoiler here, there are some images out there that look like, they don't actually say it's a waygate, but they look like it, So we're definitely going to go through a waygate, and we're going to have to, either we stop at Fal Dara quickly and then we move on. We go to the Eye of the World, and then we're talking episode 4 here. This is a lot in one episode. So you're leaving Caemlyn, and you're going to go travel the ways. You're either going to go straight there. They're going to set it up to where it's somewhere in the Blight, and Moiraine just sort of knows that maybe she's sharing stuff along the way. They encounter other Shadowspawn. Like maybe they don't stop in at Fal Dara. Maybe that doesn't happen.
Maybe it's a reference. It could happen in the next episode. We fall back to Fal
exactly.
Dara, no pun intended, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it just seems like if you're going to do sort of this, if the title of it is The Dragon Reborn, and we're going to have this epic moment take place, and we need to have that Eye of the World moment, and you want to do that right in the middle of the series. I mean, and again, you think about it from, I guess, a showrunner's perspective and trying to build hype for a series, like that's pretty awesome that happens midway through, and you're sort of like, wait a second, we're only halfway through. What else is gonna happen? This is pretty epic. If we go to the Eye of the World, if we battle the Forsaken, and we claim the Horn of Valyr, the whole 9 yards, if that happens, that's a lot, and that is huge. So I think it's ambitious, but it may be exactly what we need to do. And I was talking to you in the podcast, Sir Matt, about like the idea that Robert Jordan does a really good job of developing characters very quickly, and basically taking them from these folk in the Two Rivers who haven't seen a big village or a big town, or they think the Wine Spring Inn is the largest thing they've ever seen, and then very quickly they go through town after town all the way up to Caemlyn. It just keeps building, and we just keep sort of accepting, like, yes, these were youngsters who entered the world and are blown away because they were cut off. They didn't know what the rest of the world looked like, and they're learning, and they're rapidly growing. That's actually the spirit of the first 3 books. Our characters go through rapid character development. So I don't know why the show can't do it as well, So.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things I'm thinking about pace, right? Just because they skip over something, like I think of Game of Thrones as a comparison, right? One of the things they skipped over in Game of Thrones is Balon Greyjoy's death, right? I mean, that's something that happens, you're talking like, it should have happened in like season 2 or in like season 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And they brought it all the way back right in like season 7 because they skipped over it. So, if the show gets going on, it's a big hit, and it looks like, well, actually, maybe we could do 10 seasons because, you just never know as you get going.
Sure.
Well, then we can come back and we can add in some stuff or,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I don't think that they're necessarily tied to this pace of,
Yes.
and this is a pace that we're assuming just based on episode titles. And you can add stuff back in later or whatever. So I don't know that they're saying we're locked in. I mean, right now you've got to make a show that gets past season 2 because that's what's been ordered, right?
That's right.
And it's gotta be good enough to get past season 2.
And really, you're just playing with sequence of events because we did a video on Lowgain and how his story may start a lot earlier because of the casting announcement. Rafe Judkins kind of said that. I always thought it would be interesting to see some of the battling going on between a false dragon and the Aes Sedai. You do more world building pretty quickly instead of just staying right with our main group and learning. I mean, if you stay right with Rand, Matt, Perrin, Egwene, Nynaeve, whatever, you learn at the same rate that they do. But if we, as I guess, sort of to build that suspense and drama, you start to show the audience sort of like, this is what's going on over in Gillidan. Like, this is what's happening with that false dragon. Like, the stakes are high. It's just different. It's a different. Again, we're adapting a book to a TV show. So I think you're right in that if we do skip over something, we could weave it back in, and there might be a way to do that. So it wouldn't surprise me if they skipped right past Fal Dara and they went straight to the Eye of the World, and then we come back there because we're going to come back there anyways. Yeah, I mean, we end up coming back there, and the Amerlin seat shows up. So that's kind of a big deal.
I mean, at first I was thinking maybe 6 episodes, and that would not have been a 4 episode per book pace, obviously, because some of the books are shorter than others, and so some I don't know, do you cram? Is that like what you do going forward, or do you say, well, this book is shorter, or we don't need this, and then this? I think it's a fluid thing. I don't know if it's necessarily a rigid schedule, which is what I've been seeing a lot of people talk about, like on Reddit and stuff like that, saying like that's probably going to be the pace. So
yeah, I like that. That's a really good point. I guess as we think about the next couple episodes, because the next 2, according again to folks who have, some of these pictures are blurry too. They've zoomed all the way in here on like episode 4 or episode 5, which we'll cover next week. Blood Calls to Blood. We can look at sort of where that is referenced in the text, and then episode 6, The Flame of Tarvalin. And so you use sort of those titles, and you think, what could that be indicating? And you, like as Sir Matt said, we're trying to use that as a pace setter. But it's fascinating to me because as I look back through episodes 1 through 3, and I look at the casting, New Spring material seems to be like it's going to be covered in those first several episodes. So that is really cool. We talked in the last episode that maybe we wouldn't have that the divisions after Shadar Logoth might be different. Like you might not have characters split evenly, or they might be split a different way. They might not split at all. That was another thing. It's just sort of like you could still you could keep the band together and just sort of condense where they're all going, because one of the issues is, and Rafe talked about this, all the different settings and the locations and the sets that you have to build. If you can keep that band of characters together more, well, then it's a less,
it's a lot easier from a production, right?
Yeah. So that actually, we were kind of going the opposite direction, thinking, well, we might just shift some people around between those two, when they meet Elias versus Rand and Matt going to Four Kings and losing Tom. That might be sort of consolidated, and we might lose Tom later, and we might actually just travel in with the Tinkers and learn more about them. So just there's a lot of different ways it could go. And again, we're just having fun, sort of like making predictions and thinking about, if you're sitting there as Rafe Judkins, which what an awesome, like his spirit and just the way he's approaching this series just gives me a lot of hope. I'm like super pumped about this because it just seems like he really wants to do this right and do it the right way. but I'd love to be just a fly on the wall, and they're listening to like what they're cutting, what they're changing, and we're all reading about, you know, Brandon Sanderson's comments about some things I like and I understand, and some I'm not so sure about yet. And maybe he hasn't seen like an actual polished product, or doesn't quite. Who knows? I mean, there could be just a lot of things. It could go a lot of different ways. But it is also, I mean, Sir Matt, you gave me hope in that, like, I don't think we have to say just because something is cut, we're never going to come back to it. Right. Because Game of Thrones does do that. And that was because it mattered later on to the story. It fit better somewhere else. So that could be the case. So absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, let us know what you guys think. How are the episodes? How do you guys think the episodes are going to go? Are we right here? You know, if you are, hit that like button. Maybe give us a subscribe, or leave a nasty comment below telling us how wrong we are. But either way, we want to thank you guys for watching, and remember, the grave is no bar.